welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share something with you that I can't believe I haven't shared with you yet. This is something that I created that I absolutely love and I think would be so helpful for so many teachers. And if you're new here first, my name is Sarah from The Colorful Apple, and I love to share picture books and read alouds and anything to do with read alouds with teachers so that they can share more books with their kids in the classroom. Now, what I want to share today with you is called the Read Aloud Toolkit. And I actually have two of them, and I'll explain the difference in them in just a minute. But so often I hear from teachers that they love to do read alouds and they know how important they are. They get stuck. And there's a couple different areas where they're feeling stuck. They're not sure what books to use to do a read aloud to teach a lesson in the classroom. They want to make sure that they are choosing books that are intentional so that the read aloud has meaning in their classroom. They want to find books that align with the standards and that help teach the skill that they're learning about. And they say it's a struggle to not only find the books, but find the time to find the books, because there are so many books to choose from that it can be really overwhelming. And to make sure that you find the exact book for the skill that you're teaching or the topic that you're teaching, the strategy, that can be a lot. And I know how much teachers have on their plate right now. That plate is definitely overflowing. So finding the time to find a book can be a challenge. Another thing that they tell me that they struggle with is planning out the lesson. What goes in the lesson, making sure it's purposeful, making that read aloud interactive, making sure that it's engaging and interesting for students. And to go along with that, the biggest question I get is, what questions do I ask? How do I know what to ask during a read aloud? When to ask those questions? Which ones are meaningful? Which ones go for the skill or strategy that I'm trying to teach? And then what can I do as follow-up activities to go along with that read aloud? Now, that's where this toolkit comes in. And this is something that I would have used probably every single day when I was teaching the classroom. Because this resource is something, I put it in a binder. I love binders. I don't know if it's the teacher in me, but I love binders. I find it so easy to pull a binder off the shelf and flip through it. That's exactly what I would have done with this when I was in the classroom. And like I said, I probably would have used it every single day. So now you're probably wondering, what is in this toolkit binder? And we're gonna jump into it in just a second. I'm gonna flip through both of them with you and explain what's inside of them, how it can help you, and why I think it's so important for you to use it in the classroom. So let's dive into each of these binders and I can talk about how it's going to help you in the classroom. Okay, as I mentioned, there are two different read aloud toolkits, but you can get them together as a bundle. The two different toolkits are, one is for reading strategies and one is for reading skills. The setup of both of the toolkits is the same. They just dive into skills versus strategies. So let's look at the reading skills binder. When you open it up, you have the skills and then the tools for each one. So for example, we can start with the making connections. And you'll notice I just use like Avery dividers and labeled each one out over here so that they're easy to flip to. That way, when you are teaching a lesson, you can flip right to it and get what you need. So first, you have kind of an overview of making connections, what the strategy is, what it is, what the strategy or skill is, what it is, how to choose a book, the book titles, thinking stems, and questions to ask. Now let's dive deeper into each one of these. This is kind of a basic overview, but once you dive into each one, so here is a list of mentor texts that can be used for teaching that skill. So teaching the making connection skill. These are the titles as well as authors. This is a big list, obviously not a comprehensive one, but quite a few for you to choose from. So hopefully you can grab at least one, if not multiple, from the local library or you have in your own collection. Then how to choose a book. So these are things that you should look for when teaching this skill. When a question that I get often is, how do I know if a book is good for this skill or this strategy? Looking at these things, I've kind of laid them out That way you know kind of what you're looking for when choosing a book, if you choose one that's different than the titles that are on this list. Then I have sample questions that you can use when teaching a lesson on making connections. These questions can be used for any book, and that way you can pull this out when you're ready to teach this lesson, and you can use any of these questions in the book that you're using as your mentor text. Then there are thinking stems. You can also blow this up or create your own anchor chart for students to see, and then way they can answer your questions with these thinking stems. I have a connection to, this reminds me of another book because, that way it kind of gets them thinking about what you're teaching, and it helps with that little bit of a prompt to really get their brains thinking about what you are looking for. Then there's a sample anchor chart that you can either blow this up and print it, or you can create your own, or just hang a small one like at your small group table, or share it with students. Then there is a graphic organizer that can be used with any book for teaching this skill. So it doesn't have a specific book on it, but it can be used for teaching making connections. And then as you go through, these are all the different skills that are included. So we have inferring, then we have summarizing. And again, it's set up the exact same way for each one. You have the book list, you have the questions, there's an anchor chart, anchor chart, and a graphic organizer. Making predictions, quite a few questions for making predictions, asking questions, visualizing, and then monitoring comprehension. So you have that overview, you have the mentor text list, what to look for when choosing a book, questions that you can ask for teaching the lesson, thinking stems for your students, an anchor chart, as well as a graphic organizer to use with any book. So those are that's the skills toolkit. And the reading strategies toolkit is going to be set up the exact same way. So again, you open it up and here are all of the strategies. When you download it, there is a table of contents because this one is much larger. Lots of strategies in this one. These are all clickable, and that way if you have it on your computer, you can be taken right to that exact thing. I have it broken up by strategy, and then there's a table of contents set up by tool. So if you're looking for how to choose a book for theme, you're going to go to page 45. If you're looking for questions for retelling, you're going to go to page 94. So that's clickable in the digital version. But then, like I said, I like to print it out. I like me a good binder with organized tabs. But again, set up the same way. So you have the overview of the strategy. So this is kind of like almost like a cheat sheet. So you could print out just this and have everything that you kind of need. I like to have it all together so that it's a little more comprehensive. So I give a couple examples for how to choose a book, the thinking stems, questions, a couple book titles, but then on each page I go in depth into more of them. So there's a lot more mentor text. I think I need a bigger binder here. They're not folding. Then there's how to choose a book, what you need to look for when choosing a mentor text for main idea, different comprehension questions that can be used with any book when teaching main idea, thinking stems for students, a fun anchor chart, and then a graphic organizer. So again, these can be used with any mentor text. You have point of view, author's purpose, story elements, we have theme, compare and contrast, cause and effect, sequencing, fact and opinion, perspective, retelling. Like I said, they all follow the same format. Comprehension questions, thinking stems, an anchor chart, and then a graphic organizer. So then you have character traits, problem and solution, setting,
The funny thing is I love to make anchor charts on the computer. I am not great at making them on paper. So I just like to print them out and then blow them up. Then you have that graphic organizer. Nonfiction text features, genre, plot, and determining importance. So like I mentioned, this is something that I would have loved to have had when I was teaching. It's something that I would have grabbed from my shelf every day just to be able to flip through and feel confident in teaching a lesson using a mentor text. I would feel better about knowing that I had chosen the right text. I had my questions ready to go. I knew which graphic organizer, which activity to extend the lesson. An anchor chart that was done for me had exactly what I needed on it, and it just would have been so helpful. So as I mentioned, I will leave a link in the description box down below for you to grab it for 50% off. It is on Teachers Pay Teachers, but the link that I'll share below has it for much cheaper. So definitely grab this just to have this toolkit. That way you can grab it if you need it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below.
So I hope that you found this flip through of the Read Aloud Toolkit helpful and that you will find it useful in your classroom. Like I said, as a teacher, this is something I would have grabbed off the shelf every single day to help with my planning and to make sure that my read alouds were intentional and meaningful and that my students would be engaged and I would feel confident in what I was teaching, because sometimes we definitely don't feel confident, and having this would make me feel so much more confident in using picture book read alouds in the classroom. Now, you can get this on Teachers Pay Teachers, but I'm going to leave a link in the description box down below where you can get it for 50% off of what you would pay on Teachers Pay Teachers. You'll get both of them as a bundle and it will be 50% off for a limited time, but use that link down below to get it for that cheaper price. Like I said, you could also get it at Teachers Pay Teachers, but it's a little more expensive there. So grab this, and I hope that it's helpful in your classroom. Feel free to leave a comment below telling me if you grabbed it, if you've used it in your classroom. I would love to learn more about how you're using it, how helpful it is for you, and I hope that your students will get to hear so many more read alouds, because you know that's what I love to talk about, using those picture book read alouds in the classroom. Have a great week.